I want to thank you all for coming to our latest edition of the What Works Career Speaker Series brought to you by SAIT alumni. Like I mentioned earlier in the chat, my name is Alyssa Thanasopoulos, and I'm an Alumni Relations Officer and also a proud SAIT alum of the Radio Television Broadcast News program. So today we're going to talk all about keeping your skills relevant. But before we jump in, it's important for us to take a moment and acknowledge the traditional territories we are situated on. So we would like to acknowledge that SAIT is situated on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy. The city of Calgary encompasses a region that the Blackfoot tribes of southern Alberta described as Mohkinstsis, meaning elbow in reference to its location at the confluence of the Bow and Elbow rivers. This region was a traditional gathering place for the tribes of the Blackfoot Confederacy, and we are meeting on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which today encompasses the Indigenous peoples of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta: the Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai, the Tsuut'ina, the Stoney Nakoda First Nations, and Northwest Métis Homeland Region 3. And since this is a virtual event, we may not all be located in the same territory, so I encourage you to also take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territories in which you reside on. And I'd also like to recognize that this series wouldn't be possible without the generosity of sponsors like More Investment Management. So thank you to all of our sponsors today. All right, so we're going to be talking all about how to keep your skills relevant. And I want to kick off with a quote that really resonated with me, and it's very applicable to what we're going to be discussing today. It came from the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, and what he said is, "The learn-it-all will always do better than the know-it-all." And what I take away from that is the importance of humility and being open to learning, unlearning, and relearning. It increases readiness for the opportunities that change presents, and it helps us develop resilience, which we've all come to learn is an increasingly important trait. And I'm really excited for Lara and Blair from SAIT's Career Advancement Services to share ideas around how to embrace that philosophy and keep those skills up to date. If you have any questions along the way, please feel free to pop them into the Q&A. I'll be keeping an eye on them throughout the duration of this webinar, and we can try and address them as we go. But we'll also leave some time at the end to answer as many as we can. And like I mentioned from Ivan, he and a few others submitted some questions ahead of time. So we'll be sure to answer those as well. So thank you for submitting those. Okay, I'm going to just quickly introduce Blair and Lara. So Blair Cunningham is originally from the Peavine Métis settlement in northern Alberta, and now lives in Calgary, Alberta, on the traditional territories of the Blackfoot Confederacy. He has been in the business of supporting students and alumni at a post-secondary level for nearly a decade, and now as a career advisor within SAIT's Career Advancement Services Department, he continues his support by conducting practice interviews, reviewing resumes and LinkedIn profiles, and connecting students and alumni with employers. No matter what point SAIT students and alumni are at in their journey, Blair is committed to helping them achieve their career goals. Thank you for being here today, Blair. Lara Schuelke has been passionate about helping others map out their future and begin to navigate their path forward since her university days. She just didn't realize that until decades later that it was destined to be her career. Lara's journey took her from teaching in elementary through company recruitment, and then she stepped into a role as a program advisor at SAIT, where she realized her love for higher education. And she's gone on to complete her Master's of Education in Adult Learning and Global Change. Today, she is a certified career development practitioner and has gathered a wealth of practice in skills identification and interest assessments. She comes today with rich skills in assisting new Canadians, experienced professionals, as well as new grads as they transition onto new and varied career pathways. Thank you for joining us, Lara, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks so much, Alyssa. Hi, everybody. Great for you to join us today. We appreciate you being here. I am going to share my screen and hopefully have my PowerPoint pop up. I apologize in advance, everyone. I'm a bit croaky today. I am at home and I am going to be drinking lots throughout the session, so bear with me as we kind of go ahead through that. All right. Thanks so much for the great introduction, Alyssa, and thank you all for being here. Obviously, keeping our skills relevant is super duper important nowadays. And it's something that we are constantly struggling to do. And my slides apparently are still on auto advance. So bear with me while we deal with this. Okay, so you came to SAIT originally to get fantastic training to develop wonderful skills, and you did, but that might have been some time ago. So now jobs have changed. The work that we're doing has changed. Even the way that we are working has changed. And my slides have changed. And, you know, the way that we have gained skills may be a little bit out of date. And so now what? Well, it's important to remember that the most important thing that you learned at SAIT was not just the skills, but in fact, how to learn. While your instructors were hammering home those lessons, they were also teaching you to stay curious and to really keep growing. The very fact that you're here today means that you recognize that there's growing yet to do. And so we're going to help you come up with some strategies for that and really look at how to do that going forward. Okay, so the place that I always like to start is to figure out what's missing. What are the skills that we are needing? What are the skills that employers are looking for? And where do we, where do we have room for improvement? I'm sure that you have all seen the Alberta Learning website before. Alyssa, can you just nod if the website just popped up?
It did, yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. So the Alberta Learning Information System, or ALIS, as you might know it, you might not realize that this is actually one of the most highly regarded career and occupational tools across the country, and it is used by groups in other provinces regularly. It does have on it fantastic tools, and my website has disappeared. I think today is going to be fraught with you know, technical glitches. So I ask everybody to bear with me as I go through this. But in here, you can see that they've got skills quizzes, traits quizzes, where you can start to really search and develop a good sense of what you have for good skills and where there's room for improvement. You can set up a free account on this site, a free profile, and actually keep track of all of these assessments that you do in here. To set up an account, you just go in under the tools and resources, and you can follow through there. So via the career insights, you can start to think about where you might like to fill some gaps in your skills. From there, we're going to go back to our PowerPoint here. There we go. We can start to think about what are the types of skills that we would like to improve on. There's all kinds of different skills out there. We talk about essential skills. You may also hear about them in terms of transferable skills, those skills that cross over from one job to another. Of course, interpersonal skills. A lot of times we need to increase our interpersonal skills, especially if we're looking to move forward in our careers in terms of leadership type positions or taking on new responsibilities as we move forward in our careers. Also, the industry skills, if we're switching industries and looking for ways to make those applicable. And of course, technical skills, which some of us seem to be lacking a little bit today. But also we are always looking to grow as those skills and the demand for those change in the various industries. In the last couple of years, we have heard regularly the importance of being agile and being adaptable, the importance of resilience in our career. And sometimes they just seem like buzzwords, but in reality, those skills they are skills, which means they can be learned, they can be added to and adapted on themselves. And one of the best ways that I find for building those particular pieces, that agility, that adaptability, is really to be open to change, to be reflectant on ourselves, and to be flexible in our approach. Really, adaptability and flexibility come from a good reflective practice where we are constantly thinking about how we can change and improve our approach to the situation around us. And by being reflective, it allows us to then move forward and to step into those spaces to learn. So, good reflective practice, how do we do that? And what does that really mean and look like? Well, to me, reflective practice is about asking for feedback. Who do we talk to about that? Well, ask your friends and family. They know you best, and they are the ones that can really give you a good sense of where you can make improvements. They're also usually pretty good at telling us things that we may not be comfortable hearing from somebody else, because we know we have a safe relationship with them. And so also asking coworkers that you trust for feedback about areas that maybe you could improve upon, and honestly listening to what they're telling you. Making sure that they feel safe in giving you that feedback. So, in inviting that on a regular basis is very important to you being able to reflect upon how we move forward and how we change and adapt. And I think part of that comes from not fearing feedback. Feedback is fantastic information. And, I think in my mind, nothing shows a stronger and more adaptable human than being comfortable and willing to hear from somebody that you do have room for improvement. And I'm not going to try and requote the quote that Alyssa gave you, but really that resonates with me as well, that the person that's willing to learn and the person that's willing to grow is going to do far better than the person that thinks that they're done growing. So asking for feedback, both positive and negative, and then really truly reflecting on that as to what that means and where you can see those pieces in action, in your work, in your life, etc. And honestly assessing how you can step forward into those areas for growth. And recognizing that that's not a character flaw, that's not a trait flaw, that is simply a place for you to start learning and for you to start to take meaningful steps forward. And to honestly, I think, feel really good about that, because recognizing and accepting that, to me, is, again, indicative of a really strong and flexible human. Okay, so another strategy that I really like, and obviously coming from the career search perspective, we look at job postings an awful lot. So using job postings as a fantastic way to start to identify skills that you may want to be looking at. And there's our sneak peek at the job posting we're going to look at. But what I recommend is take a look at job postings that are, yes, ones that you're interested in applying for now, but even better, look 1 or 2 levels higher that you want to step forward in your career. Because by looking farther ahead, you're now starting to develop that 5 to 10 year plan for career growth. Review postings from companies that are really desirable for you as well, because different companies obviously are looking for different types of skills that they value in their staff. and use that to help you identify where that you might have some gaps right now so that you can fill those in preparation for applying for those jobs down the road. So let's take a look at this job posting here. And I picked something that I figured could be kind of across several different industries. So when you're reading a job posting, as you read through that, you will notice that often there's keywords that are repeated throughout the job posting. Sorry, everyone. Repeated throughout the job posting. And they're going to highlight the key skills or values of that particular organization. And that should give you some insight into what's going to be helpful for you to learn. So in this particular job posting, I've highlighted both some essential or crossover skills like the budgeting, maybe staff supervision, those types of things where maybe you feel like, oh, you know what, I could do a little bit better. Maybe there's a bit more to learn on that side of things from where I'm functioning right now. And you'll see that this particular job posting is for a senior level project manager. So somebody that's got the good technical skills that they have in here. And obviously those technical skills are areas that we want to identify potential gaps as well. So maybe I'm not up on the latest and greatest when it comes to laser scanning or something that's changed in that industry that's, you know, maybe newer technology than what I learned. So those are going to be some keys where I can start to look for courses or, you know, the different skills that I might want to brush up on. Okay. Another great source for finding skills is LinkedIn. And I'm going to actually jump out to the LinkedIn site here and show you one of my favorite features on LinkedIn in a moment. But first of all, I don't work for LinkedIn. I don't get paid by them. And if you're not totally comfortable with it, that's totally fine. LinkedIn is a very powerful tool though. And even if you don't use it to create a wide public profile, there's a lot that can be learned on there about different organizations and companies and the skills that they value in their employees. So I'm going to pop out to the actual LinkedIn site right now.
Hey, Lara.
Yes.
Something just came through the chat before I have you jump in there, but I'm curious, Marta's wondering, do you have any stats on how many people actually find a job through LinkedIn? I know you don't work for them, but do you know?
I don't have any accurate stats not on how many people find jobs through LinkedIn. I do know that companies now, 90% of companies are using LinkedIn to source candidates. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they're only accepting applications through that site, but recruiters are using it to find candidates. They are posting jobs on there that are attracting candidates. So it is a fantastically well-used, powerful tool for reach in terms of getting that information out there. I don't have any accurate stats on how many are actually fulfilled through that. My apologies. So one thing that I would like to show you is, first of all, if we go to the SAIT page on LinkedIn, fantastic information on here all the time about events that are coming up on campus, all of those good things. That's great. Definitely a resource that I would add into, you know, my cycle of looking if I were in a job search position. But I actually want to go here to look at you, the alumni. And one of the lesser known features of LinkedIn, although I feel by the number of times I've spoken about this now, hopefully it's getting out there, is this beautiful analytics function. And what this is showing you is where graduates from SAIT are living, working, what they are doing, what they studied at SAIT. Fantastic information. And one of my favorite features, by the way, If you are in a job search position, if you find your program in the list or type in the search and locate your program that way, you will see by clicking on that you're adding a filter in that will show you names of companies where SAIT graduates have had success in gaining employment. So this fantastic list of companies. But that's not what we're here for right now. That was my small commercial for other things. But if you go over twice on this next button, you will see now with the filter for information technology that we have this beautiful list of skills that current and past graduates are capitalizing on in their careers. So this is a fantastic list of skills that are important in those industries. And even better, if we go and we search for another company, and I'm just going to choose one that I happen to use on a regular basis here. If you go to a company website on LinkedIn and you go to their people function, it has this same beautiful analytics function. And you'll notice right here that their third highest institute that they employ from is SAIT, which we're very proud of. And of course, that's fantastic news for you. But if you click on that, what we're actually seeing here, again, if we go over to this next button, we will see the areas that they are hiring SAIT grads from. Even better, what are the key skills that they are looking for from those individuals? And again, this becomes such a great way to start to delve into what those companies value. And of course, you can take off that SAIT filter and just look at the overall key skills. So, you know, what's going to be key to finding employment with them? If all of their employees are listing common skills in there, that's going to be a good indication of an area that you probably want to make sure that you've got some skills in. And if there's something there that you feel like is lacking, then that's an indication of a direction that you can step in through increasing your skills. LinkedIn also has, if you go to your own profile and you go to the skills section, sorry, this is a little bit slow to load today. If you go to the skills section in LinkedIn, it actually gives you, I think it's in here. Oops, I'm under the wrong one. Sorry, there we go. The skills section. Here, you can take skills quizzes. And so LinkedIn will help you to determine where there might be room for growth. Another fantastic tool that we're going to talk about in a little bit is LinkedIn Learning, which is going to give you, open up a whole world of fantastic free information to you. So spoiler alert, that's coming up here. So, you know, we've gone through all of this. We've now identified kind of those key gaps and some key areas that maybe are important for you to move forward in. So now what? Well, I'm glad you asked. You are going to start to make a plan. So again, I encourage you to go back to the Alberta Learning website. And through this site, you can start to do some further planning. And again, if you've set up that profile, you can go in and start to do some planning, identify some courses, and to really start to draw out some fantastic steps for yourself in moving forward. And start to think about where are the areas to build, making sure that you're financially ready for stepping into those steps forward. Okay, so now how do we do that? Well, I have phrased it this way: upskilling, reskilling, and just plain learning. You know, again, that attitude and openness to learning and that curiosity will really set you on the right path for moving forward. It'll help you identify if there's some courses that you want to take. I did mention LinkedIn Learning. If you are a current student or staff member at SAIT, you have free access to LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning offers thousands of micro credentials through there, including in technical skills. And I specifically want to mention the question, I think it came from, I think, Ivan, about the MET being a recent grad and wanting to keep your skills sharp. Well, through LinkedIn Learning, you can actually continue to, do some reskilling or some revisiting of some of those project skills that maybe you've used in the past, as one way to continue to stay sharp on those skills and to maybe brush up on some things that might have become a bit rusty. Also, obviously, through SAIT, we offer a lot, and I'm going to hand it over to Alyssa for a quick moment to talk about that.
Thanks, Lara. Yeah, I can't do this without giving a shout out to our Con Ed folks. They have such a diverse range of courses that are being offered. And of course, they're all being taught by industry trained experts, and, they're giving you practical skills. It's everything from, digital marketing and social media, healthcare leadership, home inspection, data and information management. The list literally goes on. There are hundreds of courses that you can take through our Con Ed department. And I know you kind of touched on this a bit with LinkedIn Learning, but SAIT actually has SAIT Micro, which are micro credentials, and that's another way you can level up. So they're short, they're specialized, and they're aligned to current industry standards, and they include competency-based testing. At the end of each course, you also get a digital badge, which I think is really cool because you can share that with your networks, and it adds, there's a level of additional legitimacy to this badge because it kind of connects to some metadata on the background. So like you can share it, like it's verifiable is basically what it is, which is really cool. It provides context to what you learned, what skills you now have, and where you did it. So that's a unique way of sharing your accomplishments and achieving them. And then for those tuning in today who are SAIT alumni, I also want to mention there are the Level Up Alumni Awards. And these are a perk exclusively for SAIT alumni to put towards continuing their education. So if you decide you want to take a course or a certificate, or maybe enroll in a boot camp through SAIT's School for Advanced Digital Technology, if you just visit sait.ca/alumni and click on the Level Up Alumni Awards section, you can learn more about the financial assistance that's available, which is pretty significant. And we replenish that throughout the year. So if something might be out at this time, just check back in a little while, and there's going to be funds probably available by the time you check again. So definitely take advantage of that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Alyssa. I realized I neglected to say earlier, LinkedIn Learning, if you're not a current SAIT student or staff member, you can still have access to LinkedIn Learning through the Calgary Public Library. There is a way to access that through there. So if you go onto their website, there's links there regarding LinkedIn Learning that you can take a look at and access those courses through there.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick.
Yes.
Ivan was just wondering about the reputability, I guess, of like the courses through LinkedIn Learning when compared to like actual continuing education courses offered through a post-secondary or something like that.
Fantastic question. A lot of those courses are the LinkedIn Learning courses are offered through other universities and that sort of thing. So generally speaking, they are very well looked on. They're not necessarily going to be as in-depth as the material you're taking in a continuing education course. It's usually very specific. So it's a fantastic way to start to introduce yourself to some skills, to again, maybe brush up on some of those skills, but it isn't necessarily going to take you to the same depth as an actual, SAIT course or university course, for sure. They are done by credible individuals. Again, it would be probably more along the introductory lines, though. So starting to develop skills that at an initial stage. Yeah, great question, Ivan. Thank you. I do want to just also make a point at this point in time that one of the key things that employers are looking for is, and we see quite frequently in job postings, is that willingness to learn, and often phrased in terms of lifelong learning. That ongoing curiosity, that desire to continue to improve yourself is one of the key things that most employers are really looking for and valuing in their employees, because the mindset that says, I want to continue to improve also reflects well for the company in terms of people that are wanting to continue to improve and support the organization that they work for. So employers definitely value that lifelong learning. And so to show that you are continuously improving your skills and working on those pieces is something that's greatly valued by employers. And we see a lot of questions and a lot of searching for that in job postings and in interviews. And that leads me into the next piece, and I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Blair at this point in time. And we're going to talk about, now that we've started to develop these skills, how do we start to share them going forward?
Thanks, Lara. So some of the things that we're going to be covering when you're sharing your skills is resumes. On your resumes, you're going to look at the transferable skills that you have going from either a previous job that you may have had, and we're going to transfer those over. Same thing with career portfolios, how to put them on your resume, looking at interviews, how to excel at those. And once again, going back to LinkedIn and looking at some of the information there. So that's what we're going to cover here. So in a resume, at the very top, right under your contact information, what we found that works excellent for our students and for alumni is a piece called a professional profile. So professional profile is really 4 to 6 bullet points. And this is where you're going to input those keywords from the job posting. Now, those keywords need to match your skills and your qualifications. So with this particular example, so this individual was a SAIT graduate targeting an IT supervision or supervisor position. They're consistently recognized for technical troubleshooting skills used to rapidly and cost-effectively resolve challenging technical issues. Quick to learn and master new technology and proficient in a range of computer systems, languages, tools, and testing methodologies. Excellent communication and interpersonal skills. Emerging leadership and supervisory capabilities. And the ability to multitask and work well under pressure. So those are keywords taken right from the job posting. The reason you want to hit those keywords is more and more companies are using what's called an applicant tracking system or an ATS system. And what that really is, it's a piece of software. So as soon as you apply, that software scans your resume looking for these keywords. If you hit those keywords, your resume is going to move to the actual recruiter. So you need to hit them so that your actual resume moves to the recruiter, so it will be reviewed. The best way to do this and find those keywords, if you're able to print it out, take a highlighter in old school and highlight those keywords. If you're unable to print it out, do a copy and paste into a Word document and highlight them that way and work them into your professional profile. This is going to help now more than ever. 5 years ago, resumes, people were targeting and, we can just have one resume and mass apply. You can't do that today. You have to target each and every resume and make it relevant to that particular job posting. And this is the way that you're going to do it, is in the professional profile. I personally heard from recruiters that if you do not target your resume to their job posting, they will stop reading your resume right then and there, okay? So they're very, very particular as to what they're looking for. So make sure that you're using those keywords, okay? So this is an example of how you would set up your education on your resume. Ultimately, your resume is about you, okay? So we want to highlight what program you took in post-secondary. SAIT's a great institution, but we don't want to highlight SAIT. We want to highlight the program that you have taken. So that's what we're going to look at putting first. So this program, Information Technology Diploma, Computer Systems Major, Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, spell it out in long form and then SAIT in brackets. They graduated in 2020, so you're going to word it awarded 2020. Do not put the dates, okay? When you see the dates, what has come back to us is recruiters think that you have not completed the program. So the way to let them know that you completed the program, you have the parchment, you have the documentation, is use the word awarded, okay? If you want to put your GPA on there, you're more than welcome to. Just go GPA 3.5/4.0. And the reason for that is there are some post-secondaries now in Canada that have gone through a 9.0 system. So if you're from one of those provinces, you're applying in one of those cities, and you have a 3.5 and you just put GPA 3.5, they're going to be like, what kind of GPA is this? Okay, it's actually a really good GPA, but just make sure you go 4.0. This particular person won Athlete of the Year in 2019, and they also received the Jason Lang Scholarship for Academic Achievement. So that's where you would put those achievements on your resume as well. Under your education, you're going to put key concepts. These are the key things that you learned in the program that are relevant to that particular job posting. So it's things that they might be looking for. It could be a piece of software, things like that. So this one here, it's systems, hardware, computer operating systems, data center management, IT security, business dynamics, and professional communications and presentation skills. So those are the key things that they learned in that program that are relevant to the position that they're applying for now, okay? So that's the way you really want to input it on your resume. When it comes to interviews, the interview styles have changed. More and more companies are asking behavioral-based questions, and you're going to answer them using the STARS acronym. So the S is for situation. So you want to talk about the situation while you're giving them the short story. You want to talk about the T for task, how you got there, okay? The action that you took, so A for action. R can be for result or the reflection. So what result did you get? What reflection, okay? And then the skills that you used. So in short, what you really want to do during an interview for a behavioral-based question, you want to give them a short story. It's almost so that the employer or the interview panel can imagine exactly what you're talking about and be put in that situation, putting all those pieces together. So the situation, the task, the action, the result, and the skills, okay? You're typically going to hear questions like, tell me about a time, okay? Those are behavioral-based questions, okay?
Blair, can I just mention something? And I don't know if you would advise this, but I know that when I'm going into an interview, I typically will have a notebook because I get nervous in those situations and I want to remember those situations that would really benefit from the STAR example that you provided. Do you think that's a good idea, or does it look a little?
Honestly, there's nothing wrong with having a notebook in front of you, whether you're taking notes or if you're reading from there, okay? The reason being is because, just look at it this way, they're reading from a document as well, okay? To keep you on track, those are the types of things that you can do. Just sort of set up some of the average questions that they ask. And you can do a lot of research on those questions. So you can actually go to Google, and if you're looking for a job in IT, then you can type in typical behavioral-based questions for an IT position, or if it's a specific job that you know about that you're applying to, and then Google will populate the typical top 20 or 25 questions that they ask during those interviews. And then you can start working on those.
Can I weigh in?
Honestly, if you write your answers down and then you get asked that answer, it's going to pop in your mind a lot quicker than it would, not doing that.
The other thing that's fantastic about doing that and taking a notebook with you is while you're sitting there waiting for the interviewers to, come and take you into the room for the interview, sit there and review those answers that you've written down so that they're fresh in your mind when you go into the room. And then, yeah, you can absolutely just kind of flip quickly, glance down at your book. Obviously, you don't want to, sit and read to them from what you've got there. And the reality is that, how they ask the question may not be exactly the same. But if you've actually written out those stories for yourself in STAR strategy, when the pressure's not on, it's going to be much easier for you to tell those stories. And you will have already put words to those and come up with examples that you're not going to think of when the pressure's on. So absolutely, highly recommend taking a notebook with you. And like I said, just sit there and review those while you're waiting for your interview, because of course you've arrived at least 10 to 15 minutes ahead of time. So
thank you both. That's great.
Thanks, Lara. Okay, as alumni, you can still access our services here at Career Advancement Services forevermore, free of charge. The one thing that I want to remind you is, as alumni, you're going to have to register on the My Career Hub, okay? Once you register, we will approve it, and then you can start accessing our services. So you can access our job postings. You can book all your appointment bookings through there. We have a resource tab. The other thing that we also have on there is an events tab. So we have employer sessions. We're always promoting other events that might be taking place in and around the city as well. All of our appointments right now are virtual as well as in person. Okay, we do appointments such as career search techniques, resume review. If you want a resume review as well by email, if you just don't have the time to come in or do a Zoom session, you can still book an appointment, choose the email one. We will make the recommendations on your document, and then we will email it back to you. Just remember that we ask that it is in Word format so that we're able to attach our recommendations to your resume. We also do practice interviews and get you ready for those. Honestly, when it comes to those right now, we have 3 advisors. You can book an appointment with each and every one of us. We have our own different style of presenting those. We have different feedback that we're going to give you. If you want to do a LinkedIn profile review, awesome. We just ask that you do have a LinkedIn profile, so that even if it's just started, it's just a basic one, and then we'll go over and we'll help you bring it and perfect it so that it is ready for employers to see. Okay. Once a month, we hold virtual career conversations. And those are typically done at around 11:30 to 12:30. We have a different topic every month. One month it might be covering resumes, might be interviews, career search, different things like that that we do. So check out the My Career Hub. Like I said, it is free. You guys can access it 24/7 for the job postings as well as the resource tab. So thanks. If you are on campus, we are located in the Stangrad building, MB 205, or if you want to email us, student.employment@sait.ca. Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Blair. I love the rundown that you provided of just all the services that you have to offer. It blows my mind that it's still available to SAIT alumni and even students, and you guys do such great work, so thank you both. We did have some questions, like I mentioned, that came through kind of ahead of today. And I believe we kind of addressed Ivan's, which was about having a gap in your resume and how to stay active and relevant on the job hunt. Ivan, if you think we've hit that, give us a thumbs up. Otherwise, we can try and address that again.
I did want to add sorry. There was something else I did want to add to that. Once you have graduated, and if you don't find a job in that industry right away, as well as, courses and that sort of thing, I invite you to go back and look at your own work and your own project. So, go back and look at those with fresh eyes. Remember what you did. And sometimes it is a bit challenging if you don't necessarily own a copy of the softwares and that sort of thing, because it is very expensive to buy your own versions. So absolutely, I get that may not be possible to totally go back in. But if you go back and review the process of those projects, take a look at kind of what were the initial stages, what did you do, where did you have challenges in that? That can be a good way for you to kind of be mindful and continue to think about those pieces and where you used some of those software skills, you know, if it's in Revit or AutoCAD, that sort of thing, to go back and refresh some of those pieces. Take a look at those projects that you did. Go back, if you do still have access to the software, you know, create mini projects for yourself to go in to keep those skills sharp, to design some challenges for yourself, if you can. So that can be a way to start to delve back in to some of those pieces that maybe you've kind of forgotten along the way. So even revisiting your own work can be a fantastic way to sharpen those skills again.
Can you see that, Lara?
Yes, let me read the question. Okay. If you want to ask another one, then I will read through this one.
Sure. So another one was, what are ways to increase digital literacy when the skills gap do not fit within courses available?
Yes, absolutely. Again, it can be super duper challenging. This is another place where those micro credentials are being created all the time. And so those digital literacy skills are being reflected upon on sources like LinkedIn LinkedIn Learning or those places. What we've heard about now is a lot of companies, especially new startups, they're having challenges finding the right people because they are on the leading edge and developing those new technologies themselves. And there is no way for them to hire people that have experience in that. So again, I think one of the best ways is to be learning everything that you can, absorb, take a look at new information that's out there. But another common practice, or not common, more recent practice is companies are hosting what they call incubators in order to source talent. And these are basically sometimes paid, extended training periods at the beginning where they are, it's like a longer interview over a month or so, where companies will bring you in and start to train you on their new technologies. So if you see events like this that are happening, you may not be familiar with the term incubators, but that's what these are, is a way for people to start to develop those skills. And then at the end of that, those that have been successful in completing that program are the ones that those companies are interviewing for the position. They've also had a good chance to kind of get to know you a little bit more to decide if you're a right fit. And regardless, even if you don't get that particular job, or maybe you even decide it's not the right fit for you, which is fine, you've still gained those skills, and you now can show that you, over the course of a month, learned how to do these new fantastic pieces that are going to be an industry benefit, and you get to take that with you. And again, to me, it's the ability to learn those pieces and to think in those creative and adaptable ways that are going to make you successful in picking up the pieces that are necessary for a given position. So really staying aware of opportunities, to me, is kind of key there. I just want to jump back to Ivan's, the second part of his question here, in terms of employers looking on gaps. You know, I think COVID has done one thing for us, and that's really made employers realize that gaps exist in our experience, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And I saw when you introduced yourself, Ivan, that you've also been working on an additional credential, and I think it was a Bachelor of Engineering, which obviously is not at SAIT. So the fact that you've gone on to continue your education, I think that alleviates the pressure on those gaps. A couple of years ago, it was quite challenging to find positions, and that's through no fault of your own. So the fact that you've stayed relevant, the fact that you have gone on and continued your education, employers will look very favorably on that. If it's a longer gap on your resume, there's ways to address that as well. But the fact that you have done some additional learning that kind of coincides with at least pieces of that gap time will alleviate the pressure on employers looking at that. So I wouldn't stress too much about that. Honestly, employers nowadays, I don't think they, look on gaps as unfavorably as what they used to. Lots of people take time off for travel, for to care for families and that sort of thing. Now that's fine. That's an accepted practice nowadays. So employers are much more accepting of that. The key is to be prepared to speak to that. So if that gap is noticed on your resume and you're asked about it in an interview, to be able to turn around and say, well, it was challenging to find any position immediately at that point in kind of what was going on economically in Alberta at that time, or whatever the case is for you. Say, I did take time off to care for a family member, or whatever that looks like. So just be prepared to address that in an interview. Some people even address that right on their resume if it's a longer gap. So it's a little bit dependent on your particular situation. But commercial message, if you would like help in addressing that in either interview or resume, absolutely book an appointment with us, and that's something we can help you build an answer to, so that employers are going to feel a little bit more comfortable with that.
Yeah. Awesome. That was very helpful. So that's awesome. We got a few minutes left, so if anyone has a question, feel free to pop it in. Otherwise, I'm just going to start wrapping it up. When you were talking about the whole digital literacy thing, especially right now in Calgary, we're becoming a bit of a hub, and it's a really exciting time. I did want to mention, I learned about this thing called Tech Talent Tuesdays, and that's happening at Platform Calgary, which is downtown right across the road from the Calgary Public Library. And this is a really great opportunity to get to know some of those great companies that we're hearing about. So for example, on the 19th, Benevi is going to be presenting. It's like from 4 to 5 p.m. and you can learn more about the company and what kind of talent they're looking for. So keep your eyes peeled for those sort of opportunities, because it's a very exciting time, and you never know where you might end up. So just wanted to mention that. But other than that, I want to thank you all for coming. Blair and Lara, thank you so much for sharing your expertise today. I think I've had so many takeaways personally, particularly not fearing feedback. That was brilliant. I didn't realize the whole skills thing with LinkedIn as well, just seeking companies that you might be interested in and taking a look at those top skills, and the professional profile with those bullet points. Yeah, so much. So thank you so much. And I want to plug our next What Works event that is happening on Wednesday, May 18th. And this one will be hybrid. So it'll be located at McDonald Hall or online, whatever you're comfortable with. And we're going to have Sheila Musgrove. She's like a very talented entrepreneur who has founded her own recruitment firm. And it's going to be all about unexpected mentors and how weird and creative ways to boost your career. So keep an eye out for that. And yeah, thank you all for being here today.
Thanks so much for having us and for giving us this opportunity to talk. I'm always excited to talk about all of these things. And just remember that SAIT's here for you ongoing. We continue to support our alumni, and we welcome you back at any point in time to get additional information and to meet with us individually.
Yes, thank you for having me today, and thanks for all the attendees. And I look forward to meeting you guys in any appointments that you might want to make. Thanks.
Okay, sorry, we did have a question come in, so I'm just going to address that while I have you. And someone was wondering Inderber was wondering how to find companies that are hiring. So we have a job board, right?
Absolutely. My Career Hub is first and foremost a job board. And again, you can continue to have access to that if you are a current SAIT student or alumni. If you're alumni, you do have to register on there. It takes just a moment. It comes to us for approval. We just check to make sure you use your correct SAIT ID number. But on there is literally hundreds of jobs coming in each week that are targeting you based on your key skills gained through your SAIT programs. So fantastic ability to see which companies are looking for SAIT's born skills. So definitely take a look at those on there. All kinds of opportunities across the breadth of our programs. Of course, other job boards, I highly suggest you book a career search technique or appointment where we'll take you through and kind of based on your needs and the types of program that you graduated from and the types of jobs you're looking for. And we can tailor that a little bit more and give you some strategies to figure out how to find those companies that are going to be a good fit for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And that's all for today. So I hope you all have a good one, and thanks again.